Is there no one there?
It sounded not the way.
Probably, I heard a little knock on the back door here.
Oh, did you on the back door? I didn't hear that.
It was.
There's people on it.
Okay, so
Like 5 minutes, they're all gonna be like in their car.
they went to go stay warm, just sitting outside.
Let's just turn the light off and on the back.
We are open for business, Tim. I'm gonna give it about 2 more minutes and then I'm gonna start the meeting. Well. 1 more minute. You said there were about 5 people out there? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting then. So today is February 15th, 2024 at 6:44 PM. We had a closed meeting for about 40 minutes. And we are now going into the work meeting section to talk about there's 9 things on the agenda, but there's actually a few more things that have come up since then. We'll get through what we can. So the very first thing I wanted us just to review, some of these things are going to be on our town council meeting next week. Some of these, if we think we can put them off to next month, I'm perfectly happy to do that. We have a lot of things that are gonna be on the agenda on Tuesday. I'll let you know right now, one of the things I was asked weeks ago if I would let Steve Meismer, who's with the Virgin River Program, come and do a presentation on his wound fin project. And he already did a presentation in January to Springdale and Rockville, and he wanted to get on our January agenda, but by the time I got back to him, it was too late, so we're putting him on February. And he's got someone from Cedar City coming down, and possibly Zach from the Water Conservancy District of the
He's very passionate.
about endangered species.
I mean, it is.
So who is,
He's with the Virgin River Program. They work out of the office for the Water Conservancy District.
okay,
He was here last year.
He was here last week or something, and
It's
he's,
various types of funding, but their coalition is trying to protect certain endangered species in the Virgin River and there.
okay,
and so they're coming to do a presentation on that.
great.
And then Mike Chandler from Ash Creek is going to come. He said he volunteered to do an open house, and he would ask that we start at 5. He did ask if all the town council members could be here so we could hear what questions people ask and what his answers are. But he's going to have an open house, and we talked about 5 o'clock. And so it may very well be that he's gonna stay for our meeting. I don't know. I'm guessing he
So
will.
open house from 5 to 6.
And they're not gonna start at 6 like it's supposed to. And he may get done with his meeting, that it may be done by 5:30. You know, there may not be a lot of people show up, and then we'll have 30
I
minutes.
think that's a great idea to give people that opportunity.
It's been,
This is not part of a council meeting.
We had a
It's not
meeting-
Agenda.
We had a meeting that was just him, and it was like in October, I think, and 5 people came.
Oh. There was.
He was supposed to be on a town council meeting,
Yes.
and he had put it on the wrong day. And we sat right here in the meeting, rescheduled to a different day, announced the new meeting date, and 5 people came. So I was like, and he was here for an hour and a half. Long meeting, and there were only 5 people in the room. So he's coming again. This is gonna be the 4th time he's here just since I've been there. So anyway, he's gonna come and do an open house, so we'll be sending out a notice about that. And so I just want to let you guys know, open house at 5 o'clock on Ash Creek. And then when we get started, Steve Meisner is gonna present on the loom fin, and then we'll get to our meeting.
I got pulled aside, they do a London, every month for the local municipal attorneys, and either the county attorney's office sponsors it. This past time, the conservancy district sponsored their place, they paid for the lunch and everything, and Zach pulled me aside and said, where are we at with?
Virgin.
Where's Virgin at with joinder? It's because my board's gonna be asking me what, and I said, Zach, I don't think that joining the regional water supply agreement is really the concern. I said, the issue is sewer is very real and raw on a lot of people's. I said, so that's where I think my elected officials, are having a hearing and having the consternation.
So while we go on to talk about a couple of things, there is an item on SharePoint that you might want to look at. I did not send this to you. If you go on SharePoint under item number 5, Ash Creek letter to town residents. You might want to read that while we're talking about these other things.
Mayor, with Mike coming in at 5, it sounded like you were having open house and then waiting to 6 to have the meeting.
Yes,
Why don't we just schedule a meeting for 5, and when the open house is done, we go
we'll
right
just go
to
right
the
into,
meeting.
well, we can do that too.
And if
Because
we
we
got,
have not posted the agenda because we're waiting for tonight's meeting before we post the agenda for
if
those
we
reports.
got a lot of things on the agenda,
Okay,
if us, other council members all want.
if you guys are okay with that, I'm okay with that. What's your thoughts, Marcy, or you've got something you need to do?
I don't have my calendar with me,
Okay.
so can I let you guys know tomorrow?
Yeah, Mark, what we were hoping to do
Back.
is, I was hoping that, because I was gonna have Crystal pull up the program for doing the agenda. And while we're sitting here in the meeting, and when we figure out what's not gonna be on the agenda in February, what's gonna go in March, and then I was hoping that she'd be able to just hit post when we're done.
Yeah, right, since we're.
Yeah,
talking-
right, but she can probably wait till you let her know when it bites.
I have something I wanted to bring up, and since we're talking about agenda items, the subject of agenda. It's a little bit confusing for me because the town adopted a meeting rule procedures resolution in 2016.
Yeah.
And we're not following it. And I have a full-time job and others do too, and I only found out about what was going to be on today's meeting a little more than 24 hours in advance. And that was just, and it was a lot. It was a lot of documents and a lot of information to go through, and our resolution said it was supposed to be 7 days. And that would be really helpful. Give us the time and opportunity to review all this stuff so we can make informed decisions. Just mentioning that because everything that's packed into tonight's agenda. I have no idea what's on Tuesday's agenda because I haven't seen it yet.
It's gonna be this.
Okay,
It's what's on here, except for what we decide tonight can go to maybe March. Otherwise, it's what's here.
Marcy, yeah, I haven't read all the information because I got it, within 24 hours. And I have different things scheduled today, so I haven't even read half of it. But I did ask the mayor if we were gonna discuss, rules of procedure, and she said I think March is what you were looking at.
Yeah,
So, we need to get that nailed down as to what. our
but
rules
we're
of
gonna
procedure
talk
are.
about the fact that I know good and well what the rules of procedure say. I was here in the town council when those got passed about the 10 days, it's not 7, it's a 10-day. I thought it was 10 days to notice, but if we have a planning commission meeting that's only 5-6 days before our town council meeting, and we need to see what they pass, it's gonna go on our agenda. If I put up an agenda in 10 days before our meeting, every single month, we're gonna have an amended agenda, every month. Because we have planning commission, then the work meeting, and then we're gonna finalize the agenda.
Or-
It's gonna happen every month.
Or the items coming off the planning commission agenda will go on the following.
It could be, sometimes we will need them this month, the same month, but in any event, all I'm telling you is, if I post an agenda 10, because I tried to do that 2 years ago, I tried to get that agenda posted 10 to 7 days ahead of time. Every single month, amended agenda, I'd get calls, we need to add this, we need to add that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, we want this, we want, oh my God. So every month, amended agenda 1, amended agenda 1, amended agenda 2, amended agenda 3. It just went on and on and on,
But
and I
can't
just stopped it.
you
I
use
just
a
stopped it.
policy to defend and say you didn't meet the deadline, we're gonna be firm about it.
So, I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
It will have an amended agenda every month because of planning commission and town council being close together.
And I don't
So-
see that, but
Why not split them out?
Because we said,
Spread it out to 2 weeks.
we had a reason why we said it for, they were 2 weeks apart. We moved them to the third Tuesday from the fourth Wednesday to the third Tuesday for a reason about a year ago. So anyway, let's just move on with our meeting tonight. So first thing on the item, we already mentioned, last month that I had failed to put on the agenda last month, a public hearing to, make the appointed treasurer as a paid position and to set their salary. And I meant to do that in January. I forgot to post the public notice, so that's what this is, the first item on our agenda tonight. That ordinance is merely, we're having a public hearing because that is required in order to set forth the, compensation for an appointed position. And that's all this is appointing a paid position for the town treasurer and what their pay will be. So we've already talked about that. I don't know if you guys want any further discussion.
I just wanted to inquire as to if there is a job description about what he'll be doing.
We do not have a job description for him. He's been our treasurer for 6 years. And he's just gonna continue doing what he's been doing for 6 years.
So
we
what
are-
is it, what is it he does? He provides that one document,
No, we sign checks. He does a lot.
signs
He,
checks.
he signs checks, he reviews bills, he does he does a lot. It's worth the $400.
No, I'm not questioning the $400. I just kind of wanted to make
But-
sure I understood what he was actually doing, because I haven't been with the town enough to really
Well,
know.
what we're planning to do, he's only gonna be the treasurer through June.
Right.
And then we want to hire
Mhm.
a treasurer.
I
There-
understand.
And so I've been looking at, job descriptions for treasurers. I got like 3 or 4 I've printed off to various towns that we can all look at and see how we want this job description to be before I post it. But I want to post it probably within the next month.
So basically what you're saying is that he will just carry on what he was doing as the town council member handling the treasurer position.
Exactly, and it may very well be when we do a job description for what we want this new treasurer to do, that we may give this treasurer more job duties than what the treasurer does now, that you and I have talked about before, Marcy. And if that happens, we would probably have to raise the pay, than what we're paying for this 6-month period.
Right, so we'll go through this
Yes,
public hearing process again.
in July, or whenever we, oh, yes, whenever we raise the price, raise the compensation. we'll have
Yeah,
to
if we
do
get a
this
job description, determine an appropriate salary, then we'll amend the municipal code
And
again.
requires this whole process again.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I did have a question, sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead, I'll wait till you.
So will the treasurer then become an employee, will they be an employee of the town?
Okay.
And
That's
so,
what I was
but
gonna
it's
ask.
only gonna be part-time, it's not gonna be a full-time job.
Well, that's a discussion we should have as a council as to whether we want the person to be an employee or we want to do a contract and go out with an RFP.
Okay,
So
and if
I-
you do
I'm-
all
I'm
that,
not-
are you gonna have time to even get somebody in by the time we want somebody to start in July? Cause I mean,
Because
it's
we
only
have
going to
five-
June.
We have 5 months We can make it in 4 months, we can make a decision.
I also found a couple of job descriptions, but without knowing what Leroy actually does and what the town's desires
And-
are, it's hard to really.
It's up to us to decide. I don't even want to, I have no expectation that this new treasurer will be doing things the way Leroy did. Because I was the treasurer before Leroy, and there wasn't, I was probably the worst treasurer this town ever had. It was just, I admit it, I was terrible. And, there wasn't much for me to do because the CPA did everything.
I'll tell you, Leroy does a lot more.
And then Leroy does a lot.
The typical treasurers we've had in the
Oh,
past, like when he signs checks, she says he signs checks, but he also gets statements from Hidden Verdict with those, and he reviews them and he makes sure that they're all
And when he's
check
providing
before we get
information, hit the verdict, he's giving them explanations, letting them know how to code it and.
And we find errors.
Things like that.
Yeah, so he
Leroy and I
finds a
find
lot
errors a
of
lot.
things that are different than ever done in the past. That's just for me having worked in the office and seeing what's happened.
And without me knowing that, and maybe April doesn't know that, I don't know who else doesn't know, but that's why I made that request. I think Leroy arrived to the last work meeting a little bit late, because we changed the meeting time for that meeting. But I suggested that we ask Leroy to just provide us a simplified bullet point list of the services that he provides as the treasurer, just to make sure we cover all bases, and we'll go through that and make sure that's incorporated if we want it to remain, or else, cross it off.
Okay, because I can say that what Leroy does as treasurer is he has made this position his own, and let's put it that way, because having been the treasurer before him, what he does, I did nothing remotely close to what he does, so he's kind of made it his own.
But that's what she's suggesting.
Yeah, but still, we can get a bullet point.
points, then we can incorporate it into the new treasurer's job description.
Take advantage of them while you're working for us.
Yeah, and if the position if it is decided that the position will be an employee, then we should reference personnel manual.
We should do what about personnel?
Personnel manual.
We should follow the personnel manual, because there's several sections about employee hiring and creating job descriptions and classification and compensation and salary planning, all of those aspects.
Okay, so that's, any more discussion on this topic before we move on to the next one? Nope, okay, so the next item on the agenda is to discuss the selection of a mayor pro tem. So we need to appoint a mayor pro tem. I had prepared a resolution and I ended up not putting it on SharePoint because I went back and looked in the past. And I never found that the town had ever done this by resolution in the past, whenever they appointed a mayor pro tem, who gets voted on at the town council meeting, that was it. And so I was like, oh. So I had prepared a number of resolutions, which is partly what was taking so long to get this agenda up, is because I was working on various resolutions and then I ended up not putting them on SharePoint.
I like the idea of a resolution.
I do too.
Okay, all right. So meanwhile, we need to choose who this mayor pro tem is gonna be, so I can put the name on the resolution. So, anybody who
I would
wants
suggest
to be-
Paul.
You would suggest
Paul
Paul?
can do it.
Any objection? Anybody else want to be mayor pro tem?
I have objection to me doing it.
Misty, you want to be mayor pro tem? No, thank you, she says.
Yeah.
Would-
Paul, are you willing to accept being mayor pro tem? I can't be.
I have a suggestion, because in case, in the rare opportunity, I don't mind doing that, but in the rare opportunity that both you and I have gone, I'd like to name a second mayor pro tem, so we got it covered and have Misty be the second pro tem. That's all right with you?
Yeah, I think that's
Is
great.
that all right with you?
Okay.
Yeah.
So how am I gonna put her on there? Backup mayor pro tem?
Yeah, so, consider.
Okay, so I will I'll finish up that resolution and put the names on it. Okay. Number 3 and 4, that were the resolution for the wastewater study and the master transportation plan. This came up for 2 reasons. One, in the discussion where Marcy and Paul, when we met with Mike Chandler, back in, I think it was December. We met with him and talked some about, Ash Creek, and he made the comment that the Division of Water Quality is currently using this wastewater study, even though Virgin has not adopted the wastewater study that was done by Sunrise. The Division of Water Quality is using that very wastewater study when anything comes before them. And he made the point, you guys haven't adopted this wastewater study. So I put it on here for us to adopt the wastewater study, and I wanted, before I did a resolution and put it on the agenda, I wanted you guys to say, to discuss, do you guys have any objection to adopting the wastewater study? This is one of the things that I thought, there's no problem if we put that off to March. We don't have to have this month.
I do have a question about that conversation, the meeting you're referring to in December.
Uh-huh.
I believe Mike made reference to this study that it was only 15%. I might be wrong about that number, but I don't know what he meant by that.
I don't remember that comment.
Yeah, I remember him saying something about it, and so, yeah, so I don't know if that just means the depth of it, the depth of the study and the scope, or what that means, and so.
15.
I believe he said 15%, so I just wonder if you know, there's another study that is much broader, more complex.
So
I
will ask him when he's here next
Yeah.
on Tuesday, we'll ask him about that. What did he think that was?
Yeah.
What?
So I had a long conversation with Mike today, and we did talk about that 2022 study. I think the discussion we had was that the groundwater contaminants weren't tested.
No, they were not.
So I think that's
That might
one of his concerns. And when we do the study that we're looking at with the groundwater conditions report, I guess, would be, they would do some testing. So I think that we probably have to replace this one with a new study, but that's.
Well, it's a completely, they're two completely different studies. The wastewater study was a study to see about doing in Virgin, from what I understood, and I attended monthly meetings with Sunrise as they were going through this. And my understanding is what they were doing was a study to see if Virgin was going to do its own sewer system, how would they do it, and where would things be, where would the pump stations be, where would this be, how would it go? And they ended up coming up with a price of $24 million. Yeah, I'm like, we can't do that. And why did we do it? Why was this study even being done? Because it was never possible for Virgin to do its own sewer system. I didn't understand why we were doing this wastewater study, but it was put in place before I became mayor. And so it was being done. I always thought a groundwater protection study is what we needed.
It is what we need.
And that's what we're going, that's coming up for us to talk about
That's
here.
probably why he referred to it as maybe 50%.
Maybe.
But we can ask
So
him.
if he can explain the difference between a wastewater study and a groundwater protection study, I think that would be helpful for all of us as well as the public.
Okay, so I'm gonna put off this until March, and then we will ask Mike some questions at the open house on Tuesday. Everybody agree?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, then number 4 is the master transportation plan. And
Has that gone through?
no, it has not. It has not gone through planning commission, and the reason I am asking about this right now is because my plan was for planning commission to review this as part of the general plan, which once we get a consultant hired and they start work, we're talking a year before they are gonna finish this general plan. And if this gets adopted as part of that, it'll be over a year before we adopt this master transportation plan. Meanwhile, UDOT has all kind of grant funding available that we can apply for, but we cannot apply for it if we haven't adopted this master transportation plan from UDOT.
So,
Here's some money, you adopt it exactly how we say.
And we'll give you some money too. So if we don't wanna adopt the master transportation plan for another year and a half, that's fine. I just want us to understand, I want you guys clear that there is lots of funding available for us to apply for to do like the sidewalks and the landscaping along Highway 9 if we want that, but they're not gonna give us a penny if we haven't adopted the plan.
But won't we be able to go after those grants later on after it's adopted?
After we adopt the plan, we can apply for some of the grant money that UDOT has. But if we have not, that would put in place what some of the stuff that's in that plan. For example, I'm mainly talking about the landscaping, that would be along the side of the highway, where we would like to put some sidewalks, I assume, because you would like to see sidewalks, we've talked about sidewalks. And it is in that master transportation
Why
plan.
do we have to wait a year and a half to have the planning board look at it and give us a recommendation and then for us to adopt it?
I was saying that they were adopting it as part of the general plan review.
So.
But if they can just go through them and then adopt it right this moment, then that's fine
I
too.
would assume it'd be a recommendation for adoption to the current general plan, and then they would
Okay,
view that next recommendation when they create the next general plan or update. They can decide whether they want to keep it, redo it, or throw it out.
so you want me to send, so do you guys want to send it to planning commission then?
Yeah.
I want the option to be able to request money.
I do
I don't
too.
wanna
Yes.
wait, I don't think we should wait.
And
Yeah, I don't wanna wait.
And there's some issues here, and I assume that the planning commission can recommend adopt all of it or portions of it.
And amend the general plan and adopt this as the transportation section of the general.
Or they
plan.
could update the transportation plan when they are doing the general.
When they do the general plan.
I mean, there's a few little things that we could update.
Because it's options, just sending it back and then adopting it.
Okay. Next was, Ash Creek. So, did you read my letter? Okay, I had Mike review my letter also, and I asked him, what he thought of my letter, and he said he thought that I addressed all the issues perfectly. Yes. So, I prepared the resolution that, Mike had given us several months ago as to, a resolution if we were going to annex into Ash Creek. He gave me the resolution that we would need to adopt. And so I prepared that, and then I had him send me the development, what are these called? Development procedures, design standards, and construction specifications. Because the resolution says that we will adopt these as part of annexation into Ash Creek. And then, the other is the rules of operation. He sent me those two documents because the resolution refers to both of these. And these are to be incorporated into our municipal code. So that's, so I have the resolution and then the two documents that we would have to adopt into, oh, and then I asked him for the annexation schedule, and what he sent me was the annexation schedule that Apple Valley followed. And Apple Valley is, when they annexed into Apple Valley, it's 2 years ago, right around the same time right now that we are doing this. So the time frame would be very similar to what happened in Apple Valley. But he said it is up to the county attorney, Devin Snow, that I have to call Devin Snow and ask him to give us the timeline. And it's not up to him, it's up to Devin Snow, the county attorney's office. And so I have not contacted Devin. I figured this was enough for us for tonight. And as you can see, when Ash Creek annexed in, I knew that the county has to go, there has to be a meeting of the Ash Creek Board to approve the resolution. This is because it's a joint resolution with us and Ash Creek. Then it goes to the county, and then they show that it goes to a lieutenant governor's office. So there's several steps involved in going through the whole process. So I am putting this on the agenda for us to vote on next week. But with the letter that we have from the Water Conservancy District, I figure the latest we can, vote on joining Ash Creek is March. And I put the letter from Water Conservancy District on here. It is item, did you guys see it?
Yeah, the amendment to the regional water supply agreement that
There it is, it's like.
make us a municipal member has a condition proceeding that says it doesn't, we don't join and become a member. We can sign the agreement, but we don't join and become a member unless until we join Ash Creek, which, and they put an outside date of August 20th,
September 30th.
or September 30th.
September 30th. Unless they changed it, it was September 30th.
And
That's what's in there.
my discussion with, Jody Richmond's, legal counsel at the district, who we've been working with on the regional water supply agreement, she said, I don't think that if the, town came to them and asked for an extension of that time period, that we would probably agree to, as long as we see that you're working, you're in the process and just working, you need more time to comply with. This is a little bit different than an annexation when you bring in a piece of property into the town boundaries, because you have, the special service district is a district created by Washington County. And so they have to have, there has to be public hearings and a ordinance resolving to join, accepting joinder, by both Ash Creek and by us. Once those are both done, they go to the county has to then have a public hearing process, and they have to, have the service boundaries expanded in a map done, and then they pass an ordinance adopting that map and basically blessing the joinder and the expansion of the service district. And then they send it all up to Salt Lake Lieutenant Governor's office, then they issue a certificate of annexation, comes back down here, and you record that map
At
in
the
the
county.
county recorder's office along with the certificate of annexation. And I think a copy of the county's ordinance, all three need to get recorded together, and that's what expands their boundaries and makes all of Virgin Town boundaries part of their service.
Well, when I was talking to Mike yesterday, I asked him about, because he had told us it would take 6 months from the time we passed the resolution, it would take about 6 months to complete that whole process. And I was talking to him yesterday and trying to figure out what's the latest date we could pass this resolution and meet the requirements set forth by the Water Conservancy District. And he said he felt that if we get all the way down to September 30th, and we're 90% of the way through, that they would grant us an extension, that they're not going to say, no, you got 90% of the way there, you didn't get 100% of the way there, that they would probably grant us.
I
an
heard the
extension.
same thing from the district legal counsel.
Okay.
I do have a question, sorry, Paul, keep it.
No, probably that's the same.
So there was a lot of confusion in the difference between annexation
Uh-huh.
versus actual sewer, and I hope that that message has been cleared up.
I sure hope so.
I
I
hope
can't
so.
imagine how my letter did not make that
That
clear.
may still not be able to make the distinction, but then when I read this resolution, it sounds like sewer, sounds
I
like an
know.
agreement to bring sewer, so
But it's
maybe
really not. We can ask him, but I'm telling
it
you,
sounds like, but it's not.
it's not. This is the resolution that is what Apple Valley approved and adopted. And but they are the body politic for Apple Valley. Apple Valley does not have sewer, nor are they moving to sewer. And I know.
I understand, just the language.
I understand the language, but this is,
I don't know, that's the resolution that Apple Valley adopted. We can put
We can change it.
whatever we want in our resolution. We can say very clearly that,
as body politic,
and
Okay.
that initially they're gonna act as body politic, and that, unless and until, by affirmative vote of the council, it's determined that we would like, then and only then will they consider expansion of sewer up to Virgin.
Yeah, I was looking at that resolution and I thought that we could make some tweaks to it and then it would sound like it's
Why
all
don't-
about sewer.
I put, a copy on here that's a Word document. So there's a Word document for this
Okay.
resolution. I put it as a PDF and as a Word document. So if you guys want to make your changes on there, on the Word document, we can see your different changes, right?
Yeah, but download it and do it on your computer and then re-upload it.
Okay,
Otherwise, everything.
well, I just wanted to be able to see, oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
But I wanted to be able to see what changes you had, what changes you had, and then we can put them together, and if you have any changes or.
So we upload it as Misty's changes.
This changes, Mark.
yeah, put your initials or something maybe at the end. The other thing that people have been assured about is that annexation did not come with cost.
That's in my letter.
Right,
In my
but
letter, I said there's no cost.
there's a whereas in here that refers to the town being responsible for billing and collection of fees and charges.
Right, and that would be the
So-
fees and charges that they charge for reviewing plans, which are what I talk about with on the building permit.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the fees that we would be charging.
They'll also charge a fee to, Weeping Buffalo, if they're the body politic and they're using one of those compact,
Right,
things, they're gonna charge a fee, because it's gonna, we gotta collect it. And, I mean, they'll send us the bill or whatever, and we pass it on to them, we collect it and remit it to them.
Okay, so then if we want to amend that section to say exactly what the fees are gonna be, but I imagine the fees are gonna change every
It
time
would
we have a
change
business,
any
every
other
single time we have a
project
new business.
Right.
it'll-
and I understand what the fees are for, I
It
want,
is not.
I want everybody else,
It's
anybody
not
else
a fee.
to,
Okay.
all of us to be prepared to.
Well, I read through that development procedure design and construction, I mean, that was 172 pages, I didn't pick every single page. But the thing I have to say I liked about their procedures and development is that they look at a project as an entire system. And if you're just talking about the Division of Water Quality or Southwest Health, they get a plan and it says, this is a septic system for this house. And it's designed by somebody else, and they don't even really have to think about what it is and where the house is and how it's sitting, where the septic system is in terms of a lot of other things surrounding it,
So the
so.
reason why we have to adopt that, that's their standards. And it says how deep the sewer lines have to be placed, and what kind of bedding they're in, and how, these different types of things. So that we're requiring any development. And they're coming to the DRC and they're coming in for like subdivision approval. That you're gonna have to, the county engineer's gonna have to review it against compliance with Ash Creek standards and with our standards. And we do have some standards that have to deal with septic and things like that. But there has to be uniformity, because Ash Creek wants to have the same standards everywhere in their service district, so.
Well, they have a couple of things like a specific project, they have pre-approved contractors. I like the idea of that, and so there are some things that I like in our, procedures. and-
Yeah, whenever I talked to Mike, there were things when he explained, but not in the depth that you understood it, what you just explained, but I kind of got that from what he said, and I was like, oh, I so want that. Because I have seen houses getting built where I'm really worried about the septic systems that are going in, and I'm like, oh, I really want Ash Creek.
One of the things is who's gonna have to sign off on the construction drawings for the subdivision, it's gonna be Ash Creek.
Yeah,
And they know their standards better than any of us, they're gonna be reviewing for compliance with their standards.
And I also think they have to come back and review yearly some of these large underground wastewater disposal systems. And so it's all one, sort of like one package, and it's continuous. And I like that idea as well.
so, Paul, did any of your questions get asked?
No, they haven't got it,
Okay.
that's all right.
Okay,
It seems to me, because you got this Ash Creek and then you have the agreement with the Water Conservancy. Seems to me the first question we need to address before the we're going to go on the Water Conservancy
Well, yes, that's the next thing we're gonna ask, is if you want me to sign that agreement.
Well, I think that's the first decision before we reach joining Ash Creek, because
Well, I think we need to join Ash Creek, whether we go with the
Well,
water conservancy.
That's what I
or not.
think too.
I think Ash Creek's a necessity, no matter what.
Okay, but what I'm saying is the way that we come now, we changed that. The amendment to the regional water supply agreement, the way it was first drafted, is much different. Now it is, our joinder only happens if we comply. It gets us in now, approved by the district's board, instead of leaving this open to the issue of possibly having all the big municipalities decide whether they want Little Old Virgin in. And which is a complete unknown. We're bound by an agreement, but then we have to perform and we can decide. So it may come that you guys feel at the end of all the public hearings on joining Ash Creek, it's not gonna work, then we know that we basically have to then just defaulted on our agreement or not complied by the deadline. And we're not members of the water supply agreement.
so to me, it seems like, let's make the decision, let's go to the water supply.
Okay.
That'd be my thought.
Personally, I'll tell you what I think. I'm more inclined to join the Ash Creek Special Service District than I am to join the Water Conservancy.
Because I say we need Ash Creek, whether we go with the water conservancy district or not.
We can say for years, but it's not a, it's not a.
I had that conversation. with-
Where a lot of people want to go to the water conservancy
Well,
district,
it's
and
just-
not Ash Creek, but that's, when you say the opposite, what do you?
I'm not convinced of joining Ash, I mean, there are some benefits to it, but I don't see the rush in joining Ash Creek. I think the rush comes in because we want to be in the water conservancy. And so for me, until I know I'm in the water conservancy agreement, I'm not sure how I'll vote on Ash Creek. But I suppose I could vote one way, if it doesn't go through, then I could vote another way, and then we could bring it back.
I have something I will tell you, not in an open meeting, I will tell you personally some of the things I have reasons why I think Ash Creek is worth joining. And but I'll tell you.
It's a question of timing as to when.
So in my opinion, I think that the service that Ash Creek provides to protect our groundwater is important. And, even if we did join the Water Conservancy District, I think that Ash Creek is more, to me, it is more important to join Ash Creek, and not with the idea that we're going to get sewer in the future, but to have them take these systems as a package and make sure that they're built correctly, make sure these developers put in the correct systems, and that they've looked at it, they have two eyes on this project, they have Ash Creek, and then they also have, the Division of Water Quality, or,
So I want to
Southwest Delta Department, depending on what size the system is, and then they kind of, especially with the larger, wastewater treatment systems, they have an ongoing, review of those systems to make sure they're functioning properly. We don't have that right now, really.
no, we have no way of checking out any of that.
So I think that's important, for us.
So
That's why I think it's important.
I want to point out this thing, I put this on SharePoint as item 5A. It says Virgin Town grant request. Anyway, for the water, this leads into the groundwater protection studies, since we're talking about Ash Creek and it's protecting the groundwater and drinking water. So we authorized $20,000. We put $20,000 in the budget to go toward the groundwater protection study. Water Conservancy District is paying 40, and we went to the Division of Water Quality and asking for a grant of 60. And what they ended up doing, we got a grant, a request for a hardship planning grant that was prepared by the staff at the DWQ. And in their staff report that went to the board who voted on this, they put in here that they were very concerned that we would try to use this to not join Ash Creek, and they really want us to join Ash Creek, the Division of Water Quality. Then they ultimately gave us a loan for 60,000, not a grant, but they will waive the loan and turn it into a grant.
If we join.
No, it actually depends on what the results of the groundwater study are, and they actually feel that the groundwater study potentially is going to require bigger lots than 1 acre. And if we amend our zoning to acquire the bigger lots by 2027, then they will waive repayment of the loan. But it all depends on if the study shows that we need bigger lots than 1 acre.
Don't take that money,
What?
don't take that money.
Well, they also had one other thing that said, we provide an informational presentation of the study results and the recommendations to the Water Quality Board within 1 year following, project completion, and they will evaluate this for forgiveness if we do a presentation on the study.
CIB grant,
What?
the CIB grant.
Well, if we go for a CID grant, how much longer is that gonna take? This is taking a whole year.
That approval, we're gonna grant you a loan and all the different conditions, and I mean, that is a complete strong arm.
So what did?
Because this is taking a year
It's
from the time.
completely, it's completely pushing their agenda.
Okay, because from the time I started this whole thing of trying to do a groundwater protection study, it has been a year. It took us a year to get all of this and to get to this point, and for them to say, that they would do a loan and not a grant, and potentially,
There's an interest-free loan, isn't it?
is a grant. Oh, yes, it's an interest-free loan. But Leroy looked at it and said that there was no problem, if we did the grant, that paying it back was a piece of cake. But we have the money for it.
Or maybe.
So I just wanted you guys to know that's what's going on with groundwater protection.
Irrespective of whether you put Ash Creek on first or Water Conservancy, is it possible to get the, revised water agreement to look at?
When I had asked Water Conservancy District for copy, well, I know you gave me a copy, Heath.
Yeah, but they,
When I asked for it, Jody told me no, that we were not, I didn't see a copy, and you went ahead and sent me a copy, but I haven't shared it with anybody, because Jody had told me no.
I mean, how can we, I think to approve an amendment without knowing what the main water agreement
well,
says.
the last version spawned a lot of discussion and a lot of pushback. There are a couple of municipalities that kind of joined together very strongly and told the council not much to change this, and that. And I think Jody's been working on this project for a couple of years now. And said, okay, this draft is really in flux right now, and he's trying to navigate the political waters of Santa Clara, Ivans, and City of St. George.
Now, I can tell you, because I have laid it out and read every word of the current regional water supply agreement, and read every word, put them side by side to see the changes in the revised one, and see where things are changing.
I think if Jody knew that she had a version that everybody had support of, and it was just a matter of the city starting to adopt it, I think she'd hand it out much more freely, but she's a little bit leery right now that it's kind of gone. What looked like 3 months ago as being, we were there, she was just making revisions and was turning it back to the cities. And their legal counsel to look at came back with a lot of pushback.
So is there a version that we can see?
Yeah, I mean, I have the last version, but I can tell you, I'm happy to provide it. I've reviewed it for Tokerville, but it's probably not gonna look.
What the final will be.
So
it's very
all of
different.
the parties have to sign this revised agreement, is that
Yes,
all? Okay.
everybody.
which if we join, then we would have to sign.
Well,
Yeah.
the way this agreement is written, it's just an addendum to
To the old one.
Right.
That's why it's so.
Raise last amended.
so it's not an amendment to the revised.
No.
No.
No. The old one. So we're joining in as it used to be, and then knowing that in the very near future, it's gonna be something different, and I agree with Paul, he wants to see what is it gonna look like. And I know a lot of what I thought it was gonna look like, and I think it still will look like. But I have not been able to get into all the details from Jody, she wasn't sharing with me.
So she-
What he was getting pushback in private meetings from these different cities. But they were gaining up, they were talking to each other and then saying, you gotta make this change because we want it. Ivans wants it, Santa Clara wants it, and you gotta have all three of us, so what are you gonna do? But I'm like, okay, so tell me what? It's a little bit complicated.
So we're
She
not,
said, you'll see it in due time.
You can see the most
We're not
recent one that
there
he
yet.
has. a
or
copy
we're
of.
not ready to join the Water Conservancy then yet. For that decision.
She's trying to work on it as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I mean, just before I vote yes or no, I'd like to have read it, is all. So, it seems senseless to take a vote on something that.
You can't make an uninformed vote.
But what he's saying is the addendum is to the old one. But when they do if we do an addendum to the old regional water supply agreement, which everybody, that's on their website. The
New one.
new one, we would be bound by.
Well, yeah, we would vote on it, or vote.
We would be voted on, we would be on it and we'd be voting, okay, on the revision, okay?
Is this one you posted as the agreement, is that the addendum?
That's the addendum.
Addendum to the revised regional water.
And the,
But that means the current one that's on the website.
It was first in 2006.
and then they amended it 2019. And I think the 2019 one is what's on their
Yeah,
website.
that's, this is what you would be, this would be,
The appendix to 2019
The 2019,
on the website.
and that's what's on their website.
we'll have our own special signature page. And be referred to as a municipal customer under the agreement when the new one comes out and they put it to a vote.
And so the last copy I got, which was in September, that I got what the current revision was as of September, I haven't seen any changes since then. I laid them out side by side to see what changes there were from one to the other, and it was just certain little sections that they had made changes to. Big chunks of it were unchanged.
Yeah, except for there's some things they've gone through to try to change. There's been some new terminology in the state code. They're trying to use those same terms now, new version, so you can kind of see that riddled throughout. But you're right, and there's very specific areas that are the reason why it's getting revised.
So we can make a semi-informed decision if we compare this, or take this one and the one on the website and look at them
Yeah,
together.
so what I'm
Knowing
asking,
it's gonna change anyway.
yeah, so what I'm asking is, because it says under paragraph 6, that each party represents or warrants the applicable provisions of section 6.2.2, such and such, of the revised water S agreement. I can go to the website and look that up on the 2019. That's all I needed to know, because before I signed this, I want to make sure I've read that paragraph.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything else out there I was missing.
That's what they're telling us, is that it's there, this amends it, and that's,
Then-
And then it's gonna
then that's
change
fine.
again.
So I'll just show you real quick where it is on their website. I'll just show you real quick.
tell us, just go in like.
When you go to their website,
It's the
I
same place
believe-
the virginal agreement is, right?
yeah, if you know where that is,
Yeah.
Send us a link.
it's just on their main page. You go down to the very, very bottom of their main page. And they have something called.
Did they change
I
it?
didn't think it was, I thought you had.
It was on the front
a
page.
menu at the top, like resources.
Well, look, I can find it, and if I don't know how, I'll just call you up and you can walk me through it, or Misty can walk.
Oh, it's on, here it is, under about, you go to customers,
Yeah.
it's under there, customers,
Okay.
and then municipal. And then it's got links to the water agreements.
I think I found it, but it's been a while.
I've read it, but I didn't do it.
I
I
won't-
read more carefully.
Yeah.
Okay, then number 7,
So before we get there,
oh, you
both
can't.
of those, 5 and 6 for next month, or we?
No, I'm leaving Ash Creek on for a vote.
Okay.
I'm leaving it on the agenda. And if we vote to move it to March, then we vote to move it to March. I'm leaving it on the agenda. And we've got Mike Chandler from Ash Creek is gonna be here, and so is Zach.
Okay, so do you want to, is 6 gonna be on next month's agenda, or is it gonna be in March?
I can do that in March. That's not a big deal. In fact, I didn't know when we would want to address it. I just wanted you guys to see it. So let's see, March, this one goes to March. Okay, so we've got 2 things that are gonna go to March. Okay, so then the next thing is to address the zone changes, requested by Shirley Hall. That's the next thing on my agenda for today. So what's everyone's thoughts on that one?
So some of those parcels are not eligible. right?
Yeah, some are not, and I know the planning commission had planned to say no on those 4. And I assume that's what happened. Is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay.
What about that half-acre corner? Is that eligible?
It is,
Yes.
because, yeah, if you make the
We
other,
moved it forward as eligible.
You did, okay. I watched some of that meeting, but then it was really difficult to hear. You know, what was being said, so.
One
And
comment,
then the closed caption was really.
Roger said that property, even across the highway, if it's commercial, is counted as,
That is because it goes to the center line of the highway. So if you read the ordinance,
Exactly.
or it says that the boundary is to the center line of this, in this case, SR9. And so that would mean that those other properties to the south, their boundary is to the center line, and that makes them abutting properties. But my question was, isn't that right across from the park, the current Pocketville Park? Is that
One corner, well, the park is not, but, so the corner property at Pocketville Road and Highway 9
right?
is zone commercial.
Yes, this 85.
Then in between it
I
is,
wrote.
then in between it is the park, and then
Right.
next is the, what was the former post office, and that's all zone commercial.
So the largest section of that across from her is
Is
not
commercial.
commercial.
It is commercial.
No, just these little corners.
Let me look, I'm not sure I'm seeing what you're talking about.
So. This is commercial, I don't know, this is commercial.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest portion, which is the biggest portion across from that corner.
Okay, but this has been expected to be zoned commercial for probably 20 years. This was in, the section that was going to be from Pocketville Road going west. This section down here was always, even before I moved here, when I moved here, this was expected to one day be commercial. This has been eligible for commercial for years, I would estimate, before I moved here. Because when I got on town council, one of the things that was talked about was how they wanted this walkable downtown, and it was going to be right there. And there was going to be these mom and pop businesses and sidewalks and walk along, and that's been anticipated. I can't tell you how long that's been.
So my main problem is with, allowing anything to move to commercial is that short-term rentals are still a use in the commercial ordinance, and until that's removed, then I am not inclined to vote for any properties to come.
And I'm going to repeat what I have said over and over and over, which is, I want all lodging removed from commercial. Not just short-term rentals, but all lodging. We already have 5 projects for lodging that are coming in along the highway. They're sprinkled along the highway, and we're gonna have 5
Right.
projects.
Well, the other problem with that is like these short-term rentals, they're allowing 15 units on an acre. And that is not within really our 1 unit per acre requirement.
Oh, no, that's, yeah, you're right, our code allows the
I know.
15 units per acre,
And
yeah.
I don't agree that that should be allowed.
Well, it's,
You want it
and
like a
initially it
subdivision.
was supposed to be in the highway resort zone.
You want it like a subdivision type of situation where the amount of homes has to match the acreage. Like if they're 1 acre, they get 1, but they can have open space, right?
Well, my main concern is this, the density of that for wastewater.
Yeah,
We, you know.
So Heath, I have a question, have you seen the map? For this is,
I've looked at that property and it has that huge wash running through it, and then all the
So, yeah,
setbacks.
it's on- it's on the second thing.
Building anything, but.
I have 2 things, one says whole zone change ordinance, and one says whole zone change. The one that's whole zone change has a copy of the map. And I have a question on one of the parcels. Oh, it's the parcel that has the big wash to it. That parcel, because it's diagonal, you know, part of it's on the highway. And then because it goes diagonal, part of it hits, that's where it hits residential. And is it possible for us to zone part of that parcel, or does it have to be the whole parcel? Because it's the middle one that goes diagonal, there's only one that goes diagonal.
I actually measured that little section that abuts the highway, and don't we have some kind of ordinance that talks about how the frontage of that,
How long
think
the
there was a
residential needs
problem.
to be, you know?
Yeah, I had measured it, but I didn't write it down.
So you're
I'm not
asking-
sure that fits our ordinance.
You're asking if you could rezone part of the parcel?
Yes, that's what I was asking. And if the answer is no, then the answer is no, but I just
I'm
wonder,
generally not an advocate of, split zoning
okay,
a parcel of land.
okay. Because otherwise,
You can
if
do
we rezone this
You can do
commercial,
it, not ideal. It
What?
just creates problems, how do you properly articulate
Yeah, you gotta articulate what the boundaries
what
are.
your boundaries
well,
are?
yes, well, of course.
And that description can be sometimes subject of dispute or question, and so it's so much easier to run it along parcel.
Okay, because otherwise, you could end up with someone who, let's say one day this parcel gets sold.
Yeah.
Somebody could go on 170 East, where the house is, and put a business and say, hey, it's commercial. And then it's commercial in a residential neighborhood. That's why I wondered, would it be possible to say, well, part of it can be commercial, but some of it it's because of the shape. So.
So what about boundary adjustments?
But that-
Combine all of the parcels and make all of it commercial, that's a little bit.
Well, I don't like that either, because then you still have commercial.
It's all, it's all in common ownership,
Yes,
then we need to recognize that too, they can adjust the property line and the boundary line adjustments.
Mhm.
And, or they can do a part consolidation. And,
Yeah, because some of these.
The whole thing, one big parcel coming into the rezone.
Hasn't there been other issues in town with other properties that have multiple parcels? Not doing boundary adjustments and combining them,
Yes,
so maybe that's something the town should consider looking at.
Well, and I've always said on commercial projects, we shouldn't approve a commercial property, a commercial project, like a site plan, that straddles two different parcels. There should be a parcel consolidation done, because if common ownership is somehow at a later date bifurcated, and so part of it sold to one part becomes an issue.
yeah, well, and I already thought those 4 small parcels that don't qualify needed to be joined in with a bigger parcel, because it's so odd, these little 4
I would
pieces,
agree
because
with
you would
that.
end up with those 4 staying
We have a
residential.
minimum size requirement for commercial zones at 1 acre.
It is, but we had, said, we made an exception for small lots that are bound to abut a commercial zone,
And
even if it's less than an acre, could be made commercial.
So, yeah, this 0.5 acre on the corner, I have no lot, that's why I was asking if it was eligible, because it's under the 1 acre.
Which one?
This, guy or this.
Yeah, but
Triangle, it's only 0.5 acres.
Right, but if it abuts, if these get zone commercial, then it abuts commercial and it can become a commercial.
Well, I guess it abuts commercial because the boundary goes to the center line.
Yes,
I,
yes.
I'm with you, Gina, I think we need to review our permitted uses for commercial. Otherwise, there's, eligibility for banks and, trail riding.
How we get space.
Thanks.
You're objecting to a bank.
I have a problem right now. Isn't it all online?
but maybe
Oh, well, there is
something
that.
pretty good community.
Yeah, stop it. Get out of the track.
They're closed on weekends, closed on
Keep fingers out of it. Not like a convenience store.
So,
Don't we have an ordinance right now, that offers for the rental spring commercial?
yes, but still,
No,
but
we're
people have to come in and say, well, it's a motel.
Well, that's what I'm saying, can't you get out?
No, my proposed ordinance did not prohibit short-term rental and commercial. So I said short-term rentals, a mini motel, people could come in and say they're mini homes, that could be, bungalows. It would all be treated similar to motel. So short-term rentals are still allowed in my proposed ordinance in commercial zones. Because they would be treated similar to a motel.
And that's why I
And
say, I want all lodging removed from commercial.
And that's-
because the idea that you have 5.
And some,
It's fine, or either.
and so what, some of the logic that was testimony at the planning commission about, don't worry about hotels on these lots, because the size of the lots, you're not gonna get a hotel. That's leading me to switch my thinking to maybe, I was opposed to the mayor's proposal of doing away with lodging and commercial, but when we get those type of arguments in this type of area, and we haven't got my other, light commercial sold in, I may be joining her on that.
Well, my issue with your light commercial, the reason why I was opposed, you two both have talked about having 2 different types of commercial zones, which I understand. And one of them would have lodging and one would not. But where were you planning to put one zone and where were you planning to put the other? Because these 5 projects that are going in are sprinkled down the highway. They would be in all the different, this zone, that zone.
Through it, and sua sponte as a town rezone anything, we would create the zoning districts. And then people could apply for it.
That's what I was.
We could attempt to, even like we've done in some other ones, which I've never been a big fan of how we do it up here with these geographical boundaries eligibility areas for zone, but, some of it just creates, well, so, but yeah, we wouldn't be rezoning, we would be creating new zones.
We'd be creating zones.
Right, and
And
that's
then,
what
and
people.
then we would be updating our general plan, especially our future, future development map that's required, under state code to be in our general plan, and we can put where we think we would like to see it when the town grows up, but it doesn't necessarily.
With the town grows up.
That will become our guide as,
The general plan kind of, if we went to, when you went to all the general plannings that were happening in the past, they've kind of told us, the town has told us where they want the zones you and I are talking about. They've talked about they want like a commercial in the center, the Mon Pa, and then from like the Coyote out, that's where they kind of wanted a little bit more, a different type of commercial, but the Mon Pas start there and then it ends by Shirlene's property is kind of where they're talking about the current Pocketville Park. That's where they're talking about ending the Pocketville Road, right? So they were talking about ending the Mon Pas and then extending the other commercial highway resort zone beyond that.
So,
That's where the lodging and the hotels and everything.
we're initially
That's
supposed to
based
be.
on what's been said through the town at the general plans that I've attended, that where we've gotten opinion.
So you know where these 5 projects are going that I'm talking about, and I said we've got 5 lodging projects that are in the pipeline. We've got the former post office, River Rock, all that, they want to do long-term and short-term rental.
We're behind them, yeah,
We've got, Red Coyote,
that's been applied for.
yep, they've got their permits. They're putting 20 short-term rentals. 20 there, okay, the gas station,
Yeah,
that's 3. Flying Monkey, which is across the road over by Monty's house on the land that I told you guys got partitioned and is, as far as I'm concerned, really is not commercial because it doesn't touch the highway, but they're on the DRC coming up to get, to be reviewed. That's a short-term rental project they're putting.
on that one, if that's not commercial, how, oh, they did it under a residential permit.
No, it was commercial, they partitioned it off and said we're commercial. We do not have anything in our code that says it can't be. So
they're already
they're
in the
coming in.
pipeline.
How many are they doing? Crystal, do you know, Flying Monkey?
Like the dumping?
Those good dome things, you know how many they were doing? Domes, yes, domes.
it's cool, we got TVs, we got.
Wagons, domes, that's project, that's number 4.
I don't know.
At least
These are like
20.
20 little
It's at
buildings.
least 20 there.
And they're.
Where else?
The Flying Monkey, oh, they're by Monty's
Right.
house, that's at least 20, so we got 20 there, 20, I think, is what, by the gas station, 20, by, I think it's 20. It's
24.
24.
Hey,
Okay, 20 at Red Coyote, I don't know how
The
many.
gas station in Red Coyote are home, looking good for my home.
So, but anyway, the other, and then the other is someone who wants a development agreement to put in a hotel.
So Keith, being that we have this situation we put ourselves in, as a, not just us, I mean, as a town, we're kind of, where do we begin to do this separation of, because there needs to be different levels, like the ones I've been reading through, there's like a C1 for commercial, I'm calling them cottage commercial, but other places call them C1, C2, C3. So how do we begin this, because I've done a lot of research, but I don't know how to put it into an ordinance to make sense. And then once we get it into an ordinance that makes sense, how do we apply it
Well,
to our current situation?
It doesn't apply, I mean, until someone actually applies for a zone change to be.
Right.
The first member.
So it's gonna create it and then,
somebody comes in and
And
says,
create
I
its own concept,
so they're still zoned, no, our little parcels are still zoned.
everybody's parcels is still.
And then when we put that in though, they have to pick what zoning they want for commercial, correct?
They can either
That's
stay
the
as
way I
they're
understand.
currently zoned, or they can apply for a rezone
To
and
be,
get rezoned into one of these new zones that
Right, we can put those,
But my whole point is not that, my point is, we've got a project here, 20 here, a hotel here, 20 here, 20 here.
You're starting to convince me on your logic on that, but,
I think there's no-
But-
Just the idea is kind of asking.
but, you know, for Misty's thing, is one of the things is for me, I think this property is probably inappropriate for some of the intense uses that could go in there. So if that's the way I feel, and I vote not to, and the rest of the commission agrees with me, and we have that other zone, then they can come back and request that lighter commercial zone, which would be more appropriate
And
for
then
that
you
area.
go,
that's why I
Then you
say,
vote
how
for
do
it, yeah.
okay, I
we, how
see
do we
you,
do this so that,
I see you.
Well,
And I would like to, when
it
we
sounds like
do
you
the
and I
general,
are on the same page.
Yeah,
now.
and what I'd like to see is when we go to the general plan next time, we do away with this eligibility stuff and just create a big zoning map and do it like the rest of the state.
Agreed, so you're
Agreed.
saying,
However, we're stuck in this situation.
so C1,
Yes, but we can create the
so
ability.
C1 would have no logic.
Okay, so so let's set it up like this.
Whatever,
This,
yeah.
this is the highway reserve side of town.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, if we wanna go with C1, making C3 being the one we allow the most,
Yeah,
C3, okay, C2, C1.
C1.
And C1 would have no logic,
G1,
no
no
logic.
logic, it's our mon pod, it's our
Right.
commercial light in Paul's terms.
Okay.
It's commercial light, it's, and I got a little thing, I just.
Or you can make a
put it all
business,
together.
or B1, or B2,
Right.
and you got a business district, or you, I mean, we're not big enough,
Mhm.
but if we just start small.
I had three, because we're virgin and we're small still, it
We're
was
small.
3 areas that we
Okay,
Why don't you and I
okay,
get
so what are you,
together?
what are we
So
gonna
you
do?
think
You and I
there's
get
5 different commercial,
Right,
C1,
and
C2, C3, C4, C5.
could, right,
does?
and I picked 3.
St. George City.
St. George has.
But you don't need that.
We don't need that.
3,
We're not big
because
enough,
it
that's
seems
right.
the general consensus, and based on what we've heard from general plans in the past, we have 3 types of things that we want in
Yes,
this area.
yes, I agree with that.
And so if we wanna do them in order of big, small, then we do 2, 3, 1.
And the only reason I
Or
have,
3, 2, 1.
only one reason I have a proposed one is because I didn't think it could get to the planning board and through our past council.
That's,
And
that's
now-
how we start.
Now I'm hoping that we can, and so if you wanna work with me, I would be glad to help you draft one, and we can draft two. And submit it either top down or
So
bottom.
how fast can we get there? I'm still worried about Lottie. Okay, I'm sorry. Ron, what did you want to say before you have a heart attack over there?
And I know Bronwyn has even talked about it.
So, I just wanted to tell you what's on our agenda for our work meeting, we'll come in those. We have the ordinance, and some people will like this, but be ready, we have an ordinance that takes lodging out of commercial. We have, an ordinance that would create a cottage commercial zone. And we have the definition, we have, one of those ordinances has, well, the definitions we need to change are split between the 2 ordinances. We also have chapter 60 finished with all of the other, I'm not misleading, so just so you know. We've got chapter 60 finished with all of the new language, etc. So we have a lot that's coming to you.
Do you have nothing for billboards when I thought you guys got billboards?
sorry,
Okay.
all the way to.
Jeez, okay.
Bronwyn, if I'm not mistaken from our last conversations, the cottage zone is similar to the light commercial that we're talking about.
Yeah, we've had a conversation
So-
about that as well, and it's what we.
So what are we
You and I are
thinking
going.
about the whole? Lisa? I think I've got an answer, I think I figured out everybody's answer, but. We'll just, your preference would be that they have this light commercial that we're talking about. And join all the lots together in one big.
I've been
lot.
pretty consistent on all my votes, all along here, starting with the long vote. I don't like commercial next to residential, and I don't like commercial when the intensity of use is near residential, and that's been my vote, I've been consistent with it. And unless I find something that tells me different, probably where I'm leaning, but I'll listen to the testimony and decide. But I've been consistent in that process. And I'm looking forward to drafting something else, so we have more options and more tools in our toolbox.
So Heath, my question to kind of make sure my brain's straight on this. Nothing I read in our commercial ordinances says that we can't, that they cannot, that we can deny it based on our ordinance. So
Well, you can.
where does, I mean, we can deny it, that's what I mean.
You
but
can
based-
deny it, I mean, I think we need to think seriously about the reasoning why, and I would probably say, you know, things like, that it doesn't comply with the general plan, the spirit and intent of the general plan doesn't, you can look at.
Regardless of what
Yeah,
the,
you can look at,
ordinance
I mean, you
says.
can, and the reason why I tell you this is because you need to state some reasons. They just have to be reasonable arguments. Because a court, when you're acting legislatively and when you're making a zone change, that is a legislative act. Courts give the council tons of deference. They're not gonna invade your authority unless, it only has to be reasonably debatable. That's the standard of review on a zone change or a legislative act.
okay, I like that. Now, my second final question, then I'll be done, I won't ask any more. Okay. Can we just zone the 3 that touch the highway? And leave the rest unzoned?
If the applicant agrees to a modification of their
So we have to have them, okay?
would you be willing to, giving you feedback, it sounds to me like you're hearing from the council that we're not overly enthused about zoning it all the way back. Would you be willing and agreeable to, if we voted to approve the rezone only as to the front 500 feet or whatever, how many feet off the highway?
Except that we still have this diagonal one that's gonna go
And you're
over,
gonna
so that's residential.
Or a split zone, but what I'm telling you is that if you can have a pretty clear delineation, so many feet, we'll zone it so many.
Yeah, that's
feet.
what-
You probably know what those other parcels are, how deep they are, and so they're right along the back of those other ones, and that could be your cut line, and no one can really argue, oh, it extended further back, because we're only changing the zoning.
If you're gonna,
These parcels and on this parcel up to X number of feet.
Because that's been one of Paul's things this whole time, is that he wants commercial on the highway only to go to a certain depth. And because of these really long lots that go into residential, he doesn't want that to happen.
assuming that's where commercial is gonna be at.
Yeah.
But right now, I agree with April because of the short-term rental issue. I have some issues also with intensity of the use in this neighborhood.
Got it,
And
understand.
until we change our regulations, I think it's incompatible with the surrounding area.
Okay, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay,
And Paul, you can raise that as your motion.
That-
It is
yeah.
incompatible, non-compliant with the general plan. And you know what, a court looking at that says.
Yeah.
That's reasonably debatable, isn't it? I mean, they think that it was, and who's us to question? And someone challenging that in courts can use several days a week, maybe twice.
okay, all right.
Depends on how many votes.
Okay, so we're gonna go this next item on the agenda has to, oh, wait. Bronwyn had something she wanted to say from the bit, she was back there waving her arms yet again.
I was just letting you know that we were actually approached, or they told planning and zoning that they were fine with doing it. Ones on the front, they don't really are interested in the ones in the back, for what they came to us with. There was, that would be okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now on to the next item, which is this rescission. So. We have. What is? Well, I'm trying to decide how much you can really say. Based on what we were talking about. Sure.
I think we've already discussed it, but. So I don't have anything else to ask.
Okay. Okay.
it's gonna be
Well-
folded up or down, fair enough.
And what was
Well,
the recommendation?
Heath is not going to be here at our town council meeting
I'm
on
here
Tuesday.
tonight,
What?
I'll be out of town, that's why I'm here tonight.
Yeah, that's why you're here tonight, because you're not, so I just wanted your last minute input on what your thoughts are on this issue. And you did tell, you did tell April at the last meeting that you thought she might need to, that you recommended that she recuse herself. I don't know if that's still your
Well, I have
recommendation.
something to say about that. I listened to the recording and I honestly didn't say anything negative about that, project.
Yeah.
I made some factual statements, and so I don't think that anything I said could be construed into something that I should have to recuse myself on.
And I haven't, so I'm not familiar with that discussion, and I wasn't at that planning commission meeting, so. Just recognize that if you choose not to recuse yourself, and. That they may try to argue that there was bias or arbitrary and capricious conduct occurring, just for the simple fact that you'd already stated what your opinion was. Whether you said it or not, they could try to argue it. I don't care.
Okay.
And again, I mean, attorneys are always gonna make creative arguments. If you feel comfortable that your actions, you did not basically state a firm position on that, then a position in opposition to it or something like that, then go ahead and vote.
Okay. I normally try to just keep to the facts and concerns.
And that's another reason why I would suggest, and we have a couple of members of the council, there are times when you'll want to come to planning commission meetings and you're just there as a resident per se, but you have to remember you're always a council member. And so getting up and making, and I've had this conversation with our mayor multiple times, that when you're up there speaking, you're speaking as a council member, regardless if you say, I'm here and I want to make comments as a resident. Because you're still a council member and you express something there in those meetings, which may be perceived or argued by others as being attempting to direct or tell the planning commission how the council's gonna vote or how you're gonna vote on the council. That's gonna get us in trouble, if ever challenged type thing. So I would tell you, do your speaking at council meetings when it's council discussion time and there, and even then, I would not make statements before the public has been able to speak and not make statements, before the applicant has done these. We do not want it to look like any council member has a preconceived idea how they're voting from the very get-go, so that it's just basically a done deal. We have to make it, and we want everyone to feel like they have some ability to influence you through their public comments, and even from hearing questions you may pose of the applicants and stuff like that, that you're not, and that's just gonna help us that much more if these things are ever challenged. So there's a statement that my soapbox on them.
Okay. Oh, there was one other thing. I did this,
Really briefly with that, there was the attorney representing Michelle and stuff here the other night, and he got up and questioned Darlene's, saying that she did not have a conflict of interest on it.
He's trying to,
And she put that, but I don't remember how that was answered, but he made it on the record that he objected to it.
good for him. He's doing
so I was gonna say, he'll probably do
So
that on
is
Monday
it
too.
possible to itemize what the points that I made at that meeting? Or did I just decide whether I don't think I
Yeah, I don't think
can
that
use
you
myself at
can
all?
have
Okay,
a justification.
okay,
You can say, I have consulted with the town's attorney, reflected and reviewed the video from that meeting, and I feel like I don't have a bias or conflict of interest, and so I'm gonna go ahead and vote.
okay.
All you can say.
And the attorney will actually
Yeah.
review this meeting when
Yeah.
he decides to do it.
Okay.
So, the last thing that was on the agenda here was this code of conduct ordinance. You had sent something over, Heath, but it wasn't final. Is it the SharePoint?
Oh, I didn't see.
I didn't know. When did that get put in?
Again, recognizing this is just a work meeting, and I want to be able to
Yeah.
present it to you,
Yeah.
because I was asked. And, that way you guys can think on it and pull it, and if there's any changes anyone wants to make or suggest, then you can have it in.
Oh, there it is, item 9, okay. I don't think it's on SharePoint, item 9,
I don't have it
In the
on
work meeting,
work meeting.
no, not, the regular meeting.
yeah.
No, I'm sitting here looking at
That's
it.
the third one.
I don't have, I don't have it on mine. I don't have it on mine.
Oh, we have to refresh.
Did you just put it in?
It said 45 minutes ago. so-
Oh, that's why. That's not
So
mine.
she put this in.
Oh, wow. She's not gonna know.
During the meeting, simply because I asked her.
So she did this while we were in the meeting, okay.
Right.
Okay, well,
So
tell us a
yeah.
little bit about it, Keith, and we more than likely, given that we just got it, it's gonna have to end up in, March.
That's fine, I don't know that we have any hurry for this, it's just, and I can speak a little bit more about this in the actual ordinance that adopts this code of conduct. It would be adopted if, council chooses to adopt it by ordinance. Where I got a lot of this from is that there's been several discussions recently in our Utah Municipal Attorneys Association meetings about issues with conduct of public officials, I'll just use that term, whether they're elected or whether they're appointed officials, and also conduct of municipal employees, whether it's between employees and members of a body, between members of a body and members of the public, and these types of things. And what was really interesting in this last meeting I sat through, they pulled up, there has now been several different groups or consortiums kind of around the country, what is it, the National Association of Municipal Mayors adopted a code of conduct, the Institute for Local Governments adopted a code of conduct, City of St. George just adopted one, at least they were making presentations on it and trying to get it adopted. And so I looked at several different municipalities, and in this discussion, they suggested that if I wanted to look, some of these other municipal attorneys would send me graphs of what they've done. I looked at Bountiful, I looked at Woods Cross, I looked at Logan, I looked at, I want to say, I think it was West Valley City. Some of these ones, but the purpose of it is to set just some very simple standards. I mean, the purpose in A, if you guys can look at this, the purpose of these standards of conduct and rules of decorum is to promote mutual respect, stability, orderly conduct among elected, appointed officials of Virgin Town, the employees and independent contractors of the town, and members of the public. This policy is not intended to deprive any person of his or her right of freedom of expression, but to promote, to the extent possible and reasonable, open dialogue, positive communications while discouraging, intimidating, demeaning, violative, hostile, or aggressive actions. The town expects all of its elected, appointed officials, collectively town officials, and all of its employees and independent contractors, collectively town employees and contractors to comply with this policy, and it also seeks cooperation from members of the public. And then the next set under B is just simply, these are what you would consider standards of conduct. This is the expectation that we would expect all of you, all members of the planning commission, if we have committees or anything like that, this is how people should act, whether it is in interactions with the public or interactions with staff or anything like that, these are the things that we're trying to achieve. And that's treat everyone courteously, listen to others respectfully, exercise self-control, give open-minded consideration to all viewpoints, focus on the issues and avoid personalizing debate, embrace respectful disagreement and dissent as democratic rights that are inherent components of an inclusive public process and tools for forging sound decisions, and allow all members of the public to speak without intimidation or interruption, to provide a fair and equal treatment for all persons and matters coming before the town, and provide a comfortable work environment for employees and independent contractors. And then these are the specific rules. And what I did, I kind of cut and paste, trying to make sure that not everything, that there wasn't any duplication, but what I did also is I highlighted the mandatory and the permissive. You'll see shalls, shall nots, and mays all bolded, or in all caps. So you can see it. Town officials, town employees, contractors shall treat all members of the public, other town officials, and other town employees, contractors with respect at all times, and shall not make belligerent, personal, impertinent, slanders, threatening, intimidating, abusive, profane, disparaging comments towards members of the public, other town officials, and other town employees. So this goes for you guys arguing up here publicly with each other. It goes for arguing with staff, arguing with a member of the public. And if a member of the public is not, there is a whole section on what we would expect the public to be. And the mayor has the ability, or the chair of the meeting, Roman, you have the ability, you ask them once to refrain. And if they continue, you have the ability to request their removal and the use of law enforcement to remove them from the meeting. Because I think that's where we're almost always on most public display, is in the actual meeting. But there's other times when you guys are operating as town council members and planning commissioners, or acting as planning commissioners, or staff employees are working as representatives of the town and on town business. And in those times, we have to also be courteous, respectful, and everything to the town. So that's, you can see the same level of respect and consideration of different points that are deemed appropriate for public meetings shall be maintained by town officials and town employees, contractors, and private conversations or communications regarding matters of town business. The professional and personal conduct of town officials and town employees, contractors shall be above reproach and avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Town officials and town employees shall not authorize, encourage anyone else to engage in conduct prohibited by these rules of decorum and civility. Rather, they should promote the use of and adherence to these rules. Here's one that's important too. Once a deciding vote or an administrative decision is made by the town council or town board, or a town employee who might have authorities, for instance, like a zoning administrator, that has authority, it is considered a decision of the town, and respect towards said decisions shall not be afforded by any other town official or town employees or contractor. Public and private criticism of final town decisions shall be avoided. It's just a matter of, if we're just a whole bunch of infighting, how do we look are we a united front to the public in the enforcement of land use decisions and other decisions regarding the provision of lands? Town officials and town employees will not attribute improper motives to another town official or town employee without a factual basis, and never in a public meeting. Oh, you just want to vote for that because you want to do the same thing on your property, or something like that. That kind of stuff, just shouldn't be, you shouldn't assume, and even if you have an assumption, you shouldn't be saying it in public. You need to be above reproach, because that's what I'm doing that. So then the same thing, a lot of these are similar standards of conduct for members of the public and rules of decorum and civility for members of the public. In some places it goes into a little bit different detail, but it's basically the same. But I like the things like members of the, in number 1 on E1, members of the public attending a public meeting shall not engage in disorderly or boisterous conduct, including but not limited to applause, whistling, stamping of feet, booing, making any loud, threatening, profane, abusive, personal, impertinent, or slanderous utterances that disturb, disrupts, otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. And we have to recognize that this needs to be a democratic process, and if people are afraid to speak because others in the public are going to shame them or threaten them when they get outside or whatever, those types of things, just can't and shouldn't be had in meetings. There's things like, don't put sign, I mean, I don't think the mayor should, if people want to bring like placards and stuff and wave them in meetings and things like that. There is a concept of public clamor, and we shouldn't be making decisions based on public clamor. We should be making decisions based on our ordinances.
And the mayor should, if somebody applauds, the speaker should say no applause.
Yeah.
Yep. And probably sooner, the first time you make that, mayor, earlier in the meeting, it probably won't happen the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
Or it sets a good tone, but if you let it happen once, it'll happen again. Let's see. Yeah, then it gets down into enforcement. So here, the presiding officer, which it's defined above, that would be the mayor. Or if it's in the planning commission, like a public meeting of the planning commission, it would be the chair. Or if it is a person who is an employee who has administrative duties supervising other employees, they would, in that situation, they would have the ability they have the responsibility to maintain the decorum and civility of members of the public and town employees while they're interacting and communicating with each other. You can't have the public works guys, when a truck comes flying by, they can't be like flipping them off and telling them to come back, and they'll show them what they think of their, rolling coal on them and stuff as they're trying to weed side of the road. Can't have them. They're sorry, we've got to be above reproach. Employees, elected officials, everybody, those types of things. It said, in the event that any member of the public, a town official or town employee contractor, this is E4. Excuse me, breaches these rules of decorum and civility in a manner that disturbs, disrupts, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of a public meeting, the presiding officer shall order that person to cease conduct. If a member of the public, a town official, or a town employee or contractor continues to breach the rules, then they may ask them to be removed and may engage the efforts of law enforcement as necessary to carry out the order. If a member of the public, town officials, this is number 6, or another town employee contractor acts abusively towards a town employee or contractor outside of a public meeting, but in the workplace, the mayor or administrative superior shall issue an oral warning first, before taking any action, then only if they violate it a second time after they've been warned, then they have the ability. Now, if it was another council member, we have a little bit of a difference. It would to remove. We have some ordinance, state law on the removal of a council member who take a vote of the council. Like the mayor can't say, April, you've just been. You're loud, you're always speaking out, you're just disorderly, you can't get anything through a meeting, and I'll warn you, and then she does it again, and the mayor says, okay, you're off the council. She can't do that. Now, she could do that to an employee, because she is the chief administrative officer of the town. And so she does have supervisory authority to do that type of situation, but, and then it says that if a person, number 8, I think is one of the things that are more important. 7 is 2. The breach of these rules of decorum shall in no event be a basis for invalidation of any action taken by the town council or town board. But 8 is that if the town, if it becomes a problem with an employee, with an elected official or appointed official, such that we need to take it to the final step of getting a court-ordered injunction, or a restraining type order against them, then we would have the ability to do so, and we're entitled to recovery. The town is entitled to recovery of attorney's fees, and cost incurred in obtaining the injunctive relief. So those are it seems like why should we even have these types of rules? But it's the old, kind of like the old saying, fences make good neighbors. Rules, I tell people when they're starting a business, it's really important that we put things in an operating agreement so that when decisions need to be made, it gets hard down the road, you guys can both say, well, what does the code of conduct say? And
So this is not an amendment to the municipal code. From the way I'm reading the ordinance that is
It's a
adopted.
standalone code.
Standalone
What
code.
We can slot it into a chapter.
I would recommend that we slot it into
That's
chapter
what I'm
three.
I can do that too. The way I drafted it just says an independent standalone adopted by ordinance with the code itself being an exhibit to it. But if you want me to change the ordinance adopting it, and I can change numbering in here and slot it into where I think is the best place.
That's what I,
I just opened it up and I think, where it says municipal procedures might be the best place, the chapter there. And I like it in the code because then the public can go access it and everybody has access on the website. Once we start amending the code, which we
Yeah.
need to start doing.
yes.
So, yeah, please,
So
change
I
it
think
to
there
add
should
a
be
new
a
chapter.
It just seems like more and more in the last couple of years, there's just been a real decline
Incivility.
in civility and public respect, especially in public meetings. And these meetings, oftentimes, especially in city meetings, there are issues that are discussed that bring out a lot of strong belief and opinions and anger. And I mean, I watched in a municipality I was representing a client before, just a week and a half ago, I watched 2 police officers escort 3 people out of that meeting, shouting, no, it was not.
Kathy has a question. Kathy has a question. In our rules and procedures, do we have it spelled out that, because we don't have cops here. So is it spelled out that if we can't get
Well,
Joe Blow to stop,
we
that
asked-
the mayor can just say.
The mayor can.
The mayor can look at the
Well, I
council
don't know how
members
they're-
and say, I need an motion to adjourn and we all leave.
There is rule,
Yeah.
you have to vote to have them removed.
Well, no, but if they won't leave because we don't have cops here,
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
gonna remove them? That's my question.
Yes,
Is
you're right.
there a provision written in our ordinance that says, hey, Joe Blow's not gonna leave, we don't have cops, I can't make the cop, make him leave for 30 minutes, because that's how long it takes the cop to get here. So, the mayor can say,
Not in my fault.
well, Crystal calls out 15
Let
minutes.
me tell you what happened in Bozeman once.
So I want it written in our code though, so that you, all you have to do is say, council members, a unanimous vote without roll call, so motion to
I
adjourn.
don't even know. I'm gonna be
So we
honest
all
with you,
leave.
you guys have, the planning commissioners have given the trust and authority and its care to run the meeting. You guys have given the authority, well, not necessarily you, the voters have voted her to be the mayor. And I think that she probably ought to have, if you've got, it doesn't even need to stop and take 2 minutes to take a vote. If the mayor feels like someone is
Obstructing the meeting.
obstructing the meeting, making it very tenuous and frankly uncomfortable and a place like that, then, I mean,
Do we need to write that though in our procedures that we don't?
I represent a municipality that I won't, where there are a couple of members who are getting very belligerent and bringing cameras and videotaping things. and
Town council or people that are in the audience?
People in the audience.
Oh, okay.
But the town council is getting frustrated and they're speaking back and it's just not a good situation. And they're like walking around in meetings, like trying to come up close to get better views. And it's making it tenuous, uncomfortable. I don't think that another member of the public would really get up and say something that's contrary to what these people's very vocal opinions have been. And it gets tough and it just impedes the democratic process.
I was in a meeting in Bozeman, Montana, where it became very heated. And the mayor finally said, I mean, it was getting ugly, so he did the right thing, he said, close, no, he said, I'm taking a recess. We're clearing the room, the public leaves, and then we all gathered back, and then he wanted to continue the meeting, of course, I go, it's gotta be a public meeting, we gotta adjourn and come back another day. But then we came back another day and we had a sheriff there and it was peaceful. So to this comment, yeah, if it gets that wild.
You can call the mayor can order a recess.
Right.
And we don't have to have it written
And it can be
anywhere.
as long as until the person leaves. And,
If it's a whole crowd, we just come back another day.
so,
Yeah, please.
yeah,
Put it in.
I'm almost
Yes.
embarrassed to like bring this because I think, gosh, this just seems so rudimentary.
But it's our life that we're living in now.
It is.
Where the switch flipped, But it sure seemed to be sometime around COVID or something.
Yeah, there's been a
I don't
lot of,
know, maybe we had a lot of migration into this area from other areas where people are a little bit more belligerent and assertive and stuff like that. It's definitely a change.
it's not just here, there's
It's everywhere.
been, yeah.
We're lucky
It's
in Virgin
been
that it's not bad. We've got
I've read
respectful
plenty of
residents.
articles.
Well,
We are.
It's become big enough that you even see the National Conference on Mayors
Right.
of municipalities having these discussions adopting because they need a standard
Okay,
and,
okay,
Jean,
yes.
give them the pack.
Oh, yes, sorry. That thing, thank you for bringing that up. I was asked. Face wants to, there are problems with our backhoe. And, our backhoe is 20 years old. And there are issues with it, it needs to be repaired, it's going to cost quite a bit of money to repair, the backhoe. And he has contacted a company to see about leasing a backhoe. And they will give $34,000 for our current backhoe and give us a 2-year lease for that same amount of money. And then at the end of the 2-year lease, we can decide if we want to buy that backhoe we've been using. So this
what
was
is the
going,
residual or buyout on the lease at the end of 2 years?
I do not know. He does not have that written down there. It's just the trade-in value, the 2-year lease would be, because he said right now, these things are running anywhere from $16,000 to $18,000 a year to lease a backhoe. But this one is from 2004, so it's 21 years old. And, no, 20 years
We
old.
bought it in 05.
We bought it in 05, but it was already a year old when we bought it.
Yeah, for 67,000.
Yes, I see that.
Is the town still leasing the Miniax or did they buy it out?
Oh, we bought that, I believe we bought
We
that.
bought it out. Cause it was the same thing, it was a lease.
Yeah, and we bought it out. We own that now, so what he would like to do, what Chase wants to do is to turn this in and get a new backhoe, and you can see what all they say here is going on in the backhoe that they would deliver. And they could do it fairly quickly.
So meanwhile, the
We have no
backhoe,
backhoe,
meanwhile, the backhoe is out of commission.
correct.
And so is this an item that's going to come up, on a budget discussion, or is this?
Yes, well, we will probably have to amend the budget, because if we do this, we will have to somehow amend our budget where this goes. We're not actually spending any money. They are taking the backhoe away and giving us a lease for it's just an even exchange. The actual money wouldn't be spent until we decide whether or not we're going to buy the backhoe 2 years from now.
Still need to amend them.
But we still need to make some kind of budget amendment for this. So, when Chase brought this to me, I said, oh, we have to take this to the town council because of the amount of money we're talking about. What are you about to say?
Things that I would ask for is to find out what the residual is,
Okay.
buyout on the lease in 2 years, and what is the money factor in the lease. The money factor is essentially the equivalent interest rate on the loan. All you do is take the money factor and you times it by 2,400 and it'll tell you exactly what the interest rate is.
What?
But the money factor and the residual.
Yes.
You know, those two things, because my question is, if our current backhoe has a resale or a trade-in value of 34,000, are we getting a good deal for the 34,000, or are we maybe getting $20,000 worth of what we should be leasing for?
Okay, but you said once we get the money factor, we do what?
You times it by 2,400.
Why 20, oh,
It
why?
always comes out to be an interest rate.
Okay,
Believe me, for a person who worked in finance and insurance,
Okay.
car dealership for 3 years.
Jean, why don't you write that formula down and share it with us?
yeah.
The money factor is gonna look like a number that's like a 4, 5, 6-digit number, and it'll be like 0.003 something. You just times it by 2,400 and boom. it's a percentage rate, you're gonna say, oh, we're paying 10% interest on this, most, you know, that's kind of high interest that we're paying here, or something like that. Or we are leasing and we're only, their residual is so low, it's not a good buyout at the end.
Okay, so I will have Chase, sorry, not Heath, I will have Chase call tomorrow and get that info.
Because we may want to just look at buying one. And
Outright.
trade it in.
Okay.
Or just selling it, and then you having to turn cash and turn around and then negotiate our best lease.
I'd like to get an additional, estimate from another company.
But let Chase do that work and let him make. it
Maybe
work.
somebody would get better trade-in or.
Yeah, and if we decide to purchase it, then it depends on when, and if we're gonna do a buyback at the end of 2 years, we gotta get it on the capital improvement program.
Big thing like that, I always prefer three estimates. Cause it's a good practice.
And depending on what you find out, you may have to put it on the agenda for approval for
I
the
think you might find.
Yeah, I know,
And next week,
I know he wants it sooner.
This is an independent leasing company. It looks to me like their logo, it has something to do with Caterpillar, but I don't think it's their in-house. And most manufacturers are the ones who will give you the best lease terms. And they'll oftentimes give you government lease terms, which we can see by how, when we bought the town truck,
Uh-huh,
whoever leased that thing for so cheap. That, you know, and the buyout on it is so good that most of these cities, St. George City, they lease all their vehicles. And then
Yeah,
turn around and sell them off and make money, and then turn around and put those back into business.
Mayor, you haven't talked about, I need to get covered in the lead answer.
okay. So many things. All right, this is about the general plan, and you and I had already talked, Paul, about, the five-county AOG guy that, he does 5 general plans a year, and he was willing to work with Virgin on our general plan as one of his 5 plans that he will work on for 2024. And, when I had talked with Paul about whether or not we wanted to use him instead of sending out an RFP for, general plan to get a consultant that we would pay however much money, and this was free, we discussed the fact that the last general plan we had in our possession that was done by 5 county was a fairly, what's the word?
cookie cutter.
Yeah, cookie cutter, general, run of the mill.
Yeah,
Cookie cutter
Yeah.
and specialized.
And-
That's fitting.
One size fits all.
and so they're asking me, are we going to use them or not? Because if the answer is no, they're gonna go find another town to do a general plan for, so they want to, they do 5. And they've got, so they were considering us, they're like, do you want us or not? And so, if we do want them, Nate was gonna come to our town council meeting Tuesday to, talk about it, if it was going to be on the agenda for us to talk about Lyon County, but I wasn't sure if I should just tell them, never mind. And if I should just tell them, never mind, I'll send them an email tomorrow and say, never mind, we're gonna hire.
I think our community
Would expect more than.
is gonna expect more than the cookie cutter. They're very active and very strong opinions. I'd almost like to do an RFP and get somebody to.
All right, then I will just send him an email.
That's my thoughts.
If you guys are in agreement with this, then I'll just send him an email tomorrow and tell him, never mind.
I'll, yeah, if we get an email tonight, I'll email them right now.
Another perspective is if you're getting the body, the drafting and the manpower hours to have open houses and things like that.
Hold on, Chris.
All done for free. Then the town could use the money that it normally spend on a consultant to have more detailed aspects of your general plan.
We did talk about that.
And
that we could
integration
use them on
Of
some
like
stuff.
roads, transportation plans and these types of things into it. You could have a company give you more of an, almost an interactive future land use map that not only can it be a 2D version inside the middle of your general plan, but you can put it up on the website and they can go and look and find every parcel and what it's zoned and things like that.
So,
So you
but,
can spend your money
so we could
elsewhere.
save money by using them for part of it
Yeah,
and get a
instead of
consultant to
paying
do
a
the.
consultant $30,000-$40,000, maybe able to use that money a couple different places and have, more of a, I guess, an engineered or, specialized.
What do you think about it?
Is that for like the base?
Yeah, you and I talked about doing that.
We
very
did
thing.
talk about
We
that,
did talk
see
about
if
that
they
very
were
thing.
willing to do portion of it and not all of it, and,
Yeah.
but I don't know what the answer was from you.
I did not ask him that question yet, but what I don't understand, as far as I'm concerned, we can still use them on all of it, and then we supplement with a consultant to flesh out the cookie cutter that they do.
Cokerville's just going through theirs, and we looked closely at Washington cities and how they did it, and we talked with their staff. And it's really neat what they've done is that they have, taken different components like their roads master plan, and they've taken their GIS maps, their zoning maps, and they paid a company to put them all together to the point that you can even in this interactive map see where every water line of the city is in Cokerville now. And they decided to spend their money there in those things to come up with a more comprehensive, detailed, and usable general plan with a future land use map, things that can really drive and be used by staff and others in making decisions.
The, Five County told me, Nate at Five County told me that, they are hiring a GIS specialist this summer as an intern, and if it goes well, they're going to hire a permanent person to help towns like us with GIS mapping.
When the ERC is looking at, say, like a proposed subdivision or a zone change, you could pull up an interactive map like this and say, well, our road master plan says that there's supposed to be a future road right here. Are you going to set aside and not do? This is our reason why we're going to require you not to do, not the lots right here on this portion, because the road needs to go reconfigure and do it so that it meets with our plan. It's pretty neat. They can even show them where drain, stormwater drains are that run nearby, what they should need to connect to, and things like that. Whole thing that technology can do nowadays.
Yeah.
So say, maybe we shouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's why I told Crystal, hold on sending that email.
Why not let them do
Because
it?
we'll tell them yes, then we'll go get a RFP and we'll do an RFP to consultant
Yeah, we can do
to
it later.
flush it out. Okay.
Do you want them to come?
As a mayor, if I understand correctly, Nate Weinberg is planning to be there if it will be on the agenda. I don't know that it needs to be on the agenda. If anything, we would just tell them yes and have them start working with planning commission. I don't know that it needs.
They want it on the agenda as a formal official, yes.
Oh, okay, fine. Fine.
Yeah, I'd like to, that's one thing I'm gonna do.
We'll ask.
And I planning commission's input, because they're the ones that gotta do it. So, I mean, I don't wanna force this top down on the planning commission, I want planning commission involvement with that.
Yes.
Because they're the ones that gotta work with them.
Everybody.
Okay, then we'll just tell him no, because he's gotta get started. What?
Whatever, zoning commission's ready to go, they're ready, stop at the bit.
You need help. You want help?
Yeah, they want help, we want help.
I'd say yeah. Yeah. Tell him I'll put it on the agenda.
At least consider
Yes, at least consider
it.
it. It's just that
Coming, it's not Gary,
it's Nate Weinberg is the one who's coming. I think Gary's retiring, it's this year. Gary's the person that's gonna be retiring this year, and I have a suspicion that Nate will be the new Gary's person.
Roger Carter being the new Gary Brisbane.
Well, there is that. Oh, Roger was here 2 nights ago, and he came and just sat and watched the planning commission. I asked him to, and then, he said he asked me if he had permission to call you, and I said, yes, so you should be getting a phone call from Roger. Cause he wanted to talk to you about, your legal recommendations on certain things. He didn't want to cross your recommendation, so I said, sure, go ahead and call call me.
Gary would be really good if Gary would be working directly. Gary's fantastic. He's a little bit of a different duck, but he knows his stuff. And I've seen some of the general plans that Gary's written. He's fantastic.
The previous plan we have here from Five County was Gary. His Gary's name is all over that plan. And,
It all depends on how much funding Gary comes time, anytime he had to spend on things back then. And
well, they have a new person they hired named Kevin Smedley. He's from Nevada. And he's got like 25 years experience doing general plans. And that's who he's new. He's only been there less than a year. And that's who will be doing, would be working with planning commission. Okay, so you're right, Crystal, tell them that yes, and we'll put them on the agenda, okay?
Would you like a motion?
Yes, please.
Motion to adjourn.
I second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Pete, before you walk away, I want to talk about that petition.